She has been running this company into the ground for 8 months, my brother's attorney said, his voice filling the conference room like smoke. She manipulated a grieving, cognitively declining man into signing documents that were never in the family's best interest. We are here to remove her as CEO and freeze all discretionary accounts pending a full forensic review. My brother sat across the table from me in a charcoal suit our mother had probably picked out for him. He looked composed. Rehearsed. He had been preparing for this meeting the way he prepared for everything in his life by deciding what he deserved first and building the argument second. My mother sat beside him, dabbing at her eyes with a folded tissue. She had not looked at me once since I walked in. My father's attorney, Mr. Gallagher, sat at the head of the table. He looked at me over the rim of his glasses. Miss Carter, do you have a response to the motion? I did not open the folder in front of me. I did not check my notes. I set my hands flat on the table and said, not yet. I'm waiting for the auditor. My brother's attorney frowned. What auditor? The one my father hired 14 months ago, I said. She should be here any minute. My brother glanced at his lawyer. Something shifted in his expression, not quite fear, not yet. Just the first tremor of a man who realizes the ground he is standing on might not be as solid as he assumed. The conference room door opened. She was not what anyone expected. She was a small woman in her late 50s wearing a blazer the color of a storm cloud, carrying a canvas tote bag stuffed with accordion folders and a laptop that had seen better years. She did not apologize for being 90 seconds late. She did not smile at the room. She walked to the empty chair beside Mr. Gallagher, set her bag on the table, and pulled out a thumb drive. I'm the forensic accountant retained by Robert Carter in March of last year, she said. I've been embedded in the company's financials for 14 months under a confidentiality agreement. Mr. Carter asked me to attend this meeting in the event his succession plan was challenged. She plugged the thumb drive into the laptop at the end of the table. I have a lot of ground to cover, so I'd suggest we get started. My brother's attorney stood up. This is highly irregular. We were not informed of any forensic engagement. You weren't supposed to be, she said simply. That was the point. My mother stopped crying. I watched my brother's jaw tighten. I had seen that look my entire life. It was the look he got when something wasn't going his way and he hadn't figured out yet how to reframe it as someone else's fault. He was working on it. I could almost see the gears turning. I was not afraid. I was the one who had driven my father to his attorney's office 11 months before he died. I was the one who sat in the hallway reading emails on my phone while he signed the paperwork. I knew exactly what was on that thumb drive because I had helped my father organize every single file on it. He had always been 3 moves ahead. Even at the end. My father built Meridian HVAC from a single service van and a borrowed phone line. By the time he died, the company had 47 employees, regional contracts with 3 hospital systems, and a reputation that had taken him 30 years to earn. He was not a soft man. He did not do sentimental. He did spreadsheets and early mornings and handshakes that meant something. He also did not forgive waste. That was why the room went very quiet when the auditor pulled up the first slide. I'll begin with the operating account, she said. Specifically, the discretionary draws made between January and September of last year. My brother's lawyer put a hand on his client's arm. Specifically, the auditor continued, clicking through to the next slide, the $112,000 withdrawn under the category of business development with no corresponding invoices, contracts, or deliverables. My mother made a sound like she had been lightly punched. We have documentation, my brother said. His voice was steady. Practiced. Those were exploratory expenses for the Denver expansion. My father approved every one of them. He approved the Denver expansion concept in February, the auditor said. He revoked that approval in writing on April 3rd, after reviewing the vendor proposals you submitted. She clicked to the next slide. It was a scanned letter on company letterhead, signed in my father's handwriting. The funds continued to be drawn after April 3rd. 14 separate transactions. Total, $68,000 after the written revocation. The silence was different now. It had texture. I looked at my brother. He was staring at the screen with the expression of a man watching his own alibi get dismantled in real time. I had not planned to feel anything sitting in this room. I had told myself it would be procedural. Clean. But watching his face in that moment, I felt the memory cut through me like it always did, uninvited, precise, arriving at exactly the wrong time. I was 22 years old. It was a Tuesday in October, and the leaves outside my father's office window had turned that specific shade of orange that I still associate with humiliation. My father and my brother were at the round table by the window, going over the service route expansion. Blueprints. Contracts. Coffee cups. I knocked on the open door and my father looked up and said, "Come in, sweetheart," the way he always said it warmly, without thinking, the reflex of a man who loved his daughter and did not know that the word would land like a small knife in that particular room on that particular afternoon. My brother did not look up. I had spent 3 weeks building a proposal. A customer retention program based on data I had pulled from our service records, myself patterns in contract renewals, seasonal drop-off rates, a tiered loyalty structure that I had modeled out in a spreadsheet I taught myself to use by watching tutorials at midnight. I set the folder on the table. My brother picked it up, flipped through it. Set it back down. It's cute, he said. But this isn't really your lane, is it? My father looked at me. His expression was hard to read. He had always been hard to read. She has good instincts, he said. It was the best he could offer. Operations is a different animal, my brother said. He was 26. He had an MBA from a state school he had not finished and a confidence that had always been written in a larger font than his actual resume. You'd be better in marketing. Or client relations. Something people-facing. He did not say, you are not smart enough for this. He did not have to. The implication sat in the room like a third person. I took my folder back. I thanked them for their time. I went to the bathroom and stood over the sink for 4 minutes before I was sure I could walk back to my desk without showing anything on my face. I believed him for longer than I should have. That is the thing about being told a story about yourself by someone who seems to know more. You adopt it. You carry it around. I spent 3 years doing people-facing work, managing client relationships, smoothing over billing disputes, being charming at industry events while my brother collected titles. Operations Manager. VP of Development. His name on the organizational chart drifting upward while mine stayed sideways. It was not until my father got sick, really sick, the kind of sick that makes a man sit still long enough to see clearly, that things began to shift. He called me into his office on a Thursday morning in March, 2 years before he died. He closed the door. He sat down across from me, not behind his desk the way he usually did, but in the chair beside me, the way he sat when he was not being the boss. I've been watching how you handle things, he said. Not just the clients. The vendors. The contracts. The way you read people. He paused. He was not a man who led up to things. I made some mistakes in how I set this up. I'd like to correct them. I did not know what to say. He was not offering an apology. Exactly. My father did not deal in apologies. He dealt in corrections. I want you running this company when I'm gone, he said. Not your brother. You. I sat very still. He'll fight it, I said. I know, my father said. That's why we're going to be ready. Back in the conference room, my brother had found his footing. I watched him locate it the way he always did, by pivoting from defense to offense before anyone could finish closing the first door. This is a distraction, he said. He turned to Mr. Gallagher. My sister has been systematically excluding our family from company decisions for 8 months. She changed the bank signatory authority within 2 weeks of our father's death. She locked the board out of quarterly reviews. And now she's producing a hired gun to muddy the water on a clear case of undue influence. He turned to look at me directly for the first time. Dad was on palliative medication for the last year of his life. He was confused. He was isolated. She was the only one who had access to him, and she used that access to rewrite his succession plan. That is the truth. My mother nodded, her tissue pressed to her mouth. She kept us away from him, my mother said. Her voice was barely above a whisper, which meant she had practiced it. My mother's whispers were always louder than her regular voice when it mattered. His own son could not get in to see him in those last months. Do you know what that is like? To be locked out of your own father's house while he's dying? The attorney, beside my brother, leaned forward. We are prepared to file a formal complaint citing undue influence and cognitive incapacity at the time of the succession amendment. If the company's leadership structure was established while Mr. Carter was not of sound mind, the entire arrangement is subject to review. Mr. Gallagher looked at me. Miss Carter? This was the moment. I had been waiting for it the way you wait for a storm you've been watching on the radar for 2 days. You know it's coming. You've boarded the windows. You've moved everything valuable to higher ground. But there is still a moment when the first real gust hits the glass and your body responds to the sound before your mind can remind it that you are prepared. I looked at the auditor. She gave me the smallest nod. My father was not confused, I said. And I didn't isolate him. I followed his instructions. Every single one of them. I opened my folder for the first time. But I don't need you to take my word for it. The auditor pulled up a new window on the laptop. Mr. Carter maintained a private communications archive from January of the year prior to his death through his final week. Every phone call, every text, every email he sent or received during that period was automatically backed up to a cloud account that his personal attorney has held in escrow since his death. My brother's face went very still. I've cross-referenced this archive with the cellular records for his personal phone, the auditor continued. And I've prepared a summary of the contact patterns between Mr. Carter and his immediate family members over a 22-month period. She pulled up a table. Dates. Names, call durations, read receipts. Mr. Carter attempted to reach his son by phone an average of twice per week during this period, she said. Of those calls, 61% went to voicemail with no callback within 48 hours. In the final 4 months of his life, he sent his son 14 text messages. 9 were left unread. 5 received responses of fewer than 10 words. She clicked to the next slide. On October 14th, Mr. Carter sent this message. She read it aloud without inflection, the way someone reads a thing that does not need decoration. It said, "I'd really like to see you before the holidays. I know you're busy. Let me know when you have a window. Love, Dad." She paused. The message was left on read. There was no response. My mother made a sound that was not a performance. It was the first genuine thing I had heard from her in 3 years. My brother said nothing. "There are 47 similar entries," the auditor said. The room had the quality of a place where the oxygen had been quietly removed. My brother's attorney was writing something on his notepad, which is what attorneys do when they need a moment to think and cannot show their face. My brother looked at me. I held his gaze. I did not look away. I thought about the October afternoon in my father's office with my retention proposal in a manila folder. I thought about the word cute. I thought about the 3 years I spent convincing myself I was not the right shape for the thing I had been built for. "She still manipulated him," my brother said. His voice was quieter now. The righteous indignation had leaked out of it, leaving something thinner underneath. "She was there and we weren't. That's an advantage. She leveraged proximity. The court has a different word for what you're describing," Mr. Gallagher said. "It's called caregiving." "I want to address the competency question directly," the auditor said. She clicked to a new file. 6 weeks before the succession amendment was signed, Mr. Carter commissioned a full neuropsychological evaluation. He scheduled it himself, through his personal physician, without informing anyone in the family or the company. She opened the report on the screen. The evaluation found no evidence of cognitive decline, dementia, or impaired executive function. His scores on every standardized measure fell in the above-average range for a man of his age and medical history. She turned to my brother's attorney. "The report is dated, signed, and notarized. The evaluating physician is prepared to testify." My brother's attorney set down his pen. Additionally, the auditor continued, "Mr. Carter recorded a video statement the morning he signed the succession amendment. In it, he explains his reasoning in detail. He names specific incidents that informed his decision. He addresses, directly, the possibility that his son would contest the arrangement." She looked at my brother. "Would you like me to play it?" My brother did not answer. "I'll take that as a yes," Mr. Gallagher said. The video loaded. My father appeared on the screen, sitting in the leather chair behind his desk, the one he had owned since before I was born. He was thinner than I wanted to remember. His hands were folded on the desk the way they always were when he was about to say something that required precision. "My name is Robert Allen Carter," he said. "Today is November 9th. I am signing an amendment to my business succession plan, naming my daughter as sole successor to the CEO position and majority shareholder of Meridian HVAC. I am making this statement because I know my son will contest it. I know this because I know my son." My brother made a sound I had never heard from him before. "I love my son," my father continued on the screen. "I want that on the record. But love is not the same as trust, and trust is not the same as competence. I spent 15 years hoping those 3 things would align in him. They did not. He is charming and he is smart and he has his mother's instinct for the room. But he does not have what this company needs." He paused. "My daughter does. She always did. I was too slow to see it, and I am correcting that now." He looked directly at the camera. "If you're watching this, it means they went ahead and did what I told them not to do. So I want to say one more thing for the record." His voice did not waver. "The company is in good hands. Leave it alone." The video ended. My brother stood up. His chair scraped back against the floor with a sound like a verdict. "This is not over," he said. "Actually," Mr. Gallagher said, opening his own folder for the first time, "it is. Per the terms of the succession agreement, any shareholder who initiates legal proceedings challenging the competency of the grantor or the validity of the succession structure forfeits their minority stake and all future distributions. The challenge was filed this morning when your attorney submitted the motion." He turned the document around on the table so my brother could read the clause. "You filed the paperwork yourself." My brother stared at the page. "You had a 7% minority stake and quarterly distributions averaging $18,000, Mr. Gallagher said. "As of this morning, those are void." My mother grabbed my brother's arm. "He did not mean for this," she said. She was looking at me now. For the first time in 3 years, she was looking at me the way she used to, before the narrative had been written and distributed and everyone had agreed to perform it. She looked frightened and small and genuinely surprised, which meant she had actually believed him. "He told us you had pressured Dad. He said the amendment wasn't real." "I know what he told you," I said. I was not angry. I had been angry for a long time. The low-grade kind that you learn to metabolize so thoroughly you forget it is there until something breaks it open. But sitting in that room, watching my brother calculate what he had just cost himself, Watching my mother understand that she had been a prop in a story she did not write, I did not feel anger. I felt tired, and then I felt free, and then I felt something that took me a moment to name. I felt like my father's daughter. We stood in the parking lot of the office complex afterward in the flat gray light of a November afternoon. My brother had his keys in his hand. His attorney had already left. My mother was sitting in the passenger seat of my brother's car with the door open and her feet on the asphalt, the way she sat when she could not decide whether to stay or go. He tried 4 approaches in about 90 seconds. It was almost impressive. First, he said we could still work something out. A consulting arrangement. Something with the Denver expansion, which he was willing to see through properly this time. I said nothing. Then he said that Dad had not really understood what he was doing. That the medication made him sentimental. That I had gotten lucky. 14 text messages, I said. 9 of them left on read. He moved on quickly. He said he had debts. Real ones. That his wife did not know how bad it was. That family had to count for something. Family counted for something to him. I said. He kept track. Then he tried the last thing, the oldest one, the one that used to work on me when I was young enough to believe the story I had been assigned. You were always the difficult one, he said. You know that, right? You could never just go along. You always had to make everything complicated. Dad tolerated it because you're his daughter, but the rest of us. The rest of you what? I said. Needed a reason. Needed a story that made sense of why you got less. I looked at him. He didn't give you less because of me. He gave you exactly what you earned. You just needed somewhere to put the part that didn't fit. I had been somewhere to put things for a long time. I understood the function. I had served it without being asked, without being paid, without even knowing I was doing it. The way furniture serves a room, present, useful, unacknowledged. My mother said my name from the car. Just my name, nothing attached to it. She said it the way she used to say it when I was 7 and she was calling me in from the yard for dinner. I looked at her. She was not crying. Her face was open in a way that was worse than crying. I didn't know, she said. About the messages. I know, I said. Because I believed her, and because believing her was the only version of this that allowed either of us to survive the afternoon with anything intact. I unlocked my car. My brother made a sound behind me. Half syllable, half reflex, the beginning of something he did not finish. I did not turn around. I drove back to the office. I parked in the space that had my father's name on it, which I had not changed yet and was not ready to change. I sat in the car for a moment with the engine off, listening to the particular quiet of a parking garage in the middle of the afternoon. Then I went upstairs. My father's office still smelled like him. Coffee and machine oil and the specific cedar of the bookshelf he had shipped from his childhood home in Ohio 30 years ago. I had not moved anything. I was not ready to sit behind his desk yet, so I sat in the chair beside it, the one where he had told me what he wanted, the one where everything had started to shift. On the bookshelf, there was a framed photo from 1987. My father in front of his first service van, squinting against the sun, young in a way I had never known him, holding a set of keys like they were something sacred. He had started with nothing. He had built something from nothing, defended it, documented it, and then handed it to me with the full knowledge that it would be contested and the full confidence that I would hold it. 3 weeks later, the auditor called with the final report. The $68,000 in unauthorized draws had been traced and formally documented. The company's legal team was reviewing options. The forensic review Mr. Gallagher had requested of the Denver account was expected to turn up additional discrepancies. The board had approved my operating plan for the following fiscal year. We had signed a new contract with a hospital system in the next county, the one I had been quietly cultivating for the last 8 months while my brother was filing motions. I called my father's oldest employee, a man who had been with the company since the second van, to tell him the contract had been signed. He made a sound on the phone that I recognized. It was the sound of something landing right. I had not spoken to my brother since the parking lot. I did not block his number. I left it the way you leave a door technically accessible, practically closed. My mother texted me on a Sunday. It was a short message. She said she had found some of my father's things she thought I might want. A box from his closet. She said whenever I was ready. I read it twice. I did not respond that day. But I did not delete it either. I went back to the office on a Monday morning at 6:45, which was the time my father always arrived. The hour he believed separated the people who wanted something from the people who were willing to work for it. I made coffee in the break room the way he had shown me the ratio, the water temperature, the particular patience of waiting for it to finish before doing anything else. I carried my cup to his office. I sat behind his desk for the first time. It was not comfortable yet. It would take time to feel like mine. But I sat in it anyway, and I opened my laptop and I started the week. The company had 47 employees who came to work every morning because my father had built something worth coming to. They had families. They had mortgages. They had kids who played soccer on weekends and parents who needed things and futures that depended on someone showing up and doing the job correctly. He had trusted me with all of it. I was not going to be a burden. I was going to be the thing he had always said I was, in the only language he ever really spoke, the language of decisions made well, of records kept clean, of work done so thoroughly that when someone finally tried to take it apart, they found nothing loose to pull. He had built that language into me for 30 years without either of us knowing it was happening. I thought about that as the office filled up around me, phones ringing, doors opening, the particular sound of a Tuesday morning in a place where people showed up and did what they said they would do. Outside my window, the first van of the day was pulling out of the lot. I watched it go. Then I got to work,